Here are the top stories for today, February 25, 2022. Fostering peaceful change, Filipinos are urged to emulate those who keep the spirit of EDSA alive as the nation marks 36 years of the historic revolution that led to the restoration of democracy. Go or no? The question on whether Metro Manila will shift to Alert Level 1 hangs, but the Department of Health gives its nod on the downgrade, citing it has already met certain criteria. The Philippines calls for calm and urges the international community to commit to peaceful resolution of disputes as Russia's attacks on Ukraine have so far claimed over 100 lives. Employers face sanctions for illegally firing Filipino migrant workers who contracted COVID-19 in Hong Kong as the Chinese territory races against time to contain a fifth wave of infections. Good day, I'm Marita Muahe. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Today, the nation commemorates the 36th EDSA People Power Revolution. In his message, President Rodrigo Duterte said People Power Revolution remains one of the most remarkable events in our nation's history, saying it serves as a strong reminder that with unity, cooperation, and faith, there is nothing that we cannot collectively achieve for the greater good of our country. The President also lauded our public servants who render honest and effective governance at the local and national levels, those who conduct rescue and relief operations, our community volunteers, as well as medical and essential frontliners during the COVID-19 pandemic. He called on Filipinos to emulate the heroism, selflessness, and compassion of these public servants as we strive to recover from our present challenges. For its part, the Presidential Communications Operations Office also recognizes the valor of those whose sacrifices made possible the liberties we enjoy today. The PCOO, together with all Filipinos, urges everyone to remain vigilant in safeguarding our democratic institutions, preserving our values, and upholding our rights as Filipinos. The ALG Secretary Eduardo Año led the flag raising and wreath-laying rites at the People Power Monument this morning, along with Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte and National Historical Commission of the Philippines and EDSA People Power Commission Chair Rene Escalante. Año said achieving change through peaceful means remains the legacy of the historic EDSA People Power Revolution. Meanwhile, Vice Presidential candidate Senate President Vicente Tito Soto III said the EDSA revolution is the country's greatest victory over the dark times. He said it is a constant reminder on how Filipinos stood up against those who brought suffering on their lives during martial law. Soto also warned Filipinos against efforts to distort history. A total of 5,345 police personnel were deployed to secure the 36th anniversary of the EDSA People Power 1. This year's commemoration carries the theme EDSA 2022, pagtutulungan tungo sa sama-samang pagbangon mula sa pandemya. Also deployed to secure the event are personnel of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Joint Task Force National Capital Region, Bureau of Fire Protection MMDA, Quezon City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office, Department of Public Order and Safety, and Task Force for Transport and Traffic Management. For its part, the MMDA suspended the number coding scheme for the commemoration of the 36th anniversary of the EDSA People Power Revolution. The Catholic Church commemorates the 36th anniversary of the EDSA People Power 1 by the simultaneous ringing of church bells. Church bells were tolled at 12 noon and 8 in the evening today at the Archdiocese of Manila in observance of the 36th anniversary of the EDSA People Power Revolution. The Archdiocese also asked the clergy and the people to pray for Ukraine. In Iloilo Province, churches within the diocese are told to participate in the simultaneous ringing of church bells at 9:25 this evening. The Archdiocese of Haro Commission on Social Communication said the synchronized pealing of church bells will be done at the exact time when former president and dictator Ferdinand Marcos left the country, together with his first family and their cronies from Malacanang. A freedom rally is also being held at the Iloilo Provincial Capitol grounds starting at 8 p.m. and a freedom countdown leading to 9:25 p.m. followed by a noise barrage. Along with the commemoration of the EDSA People Power event, the provincial government of Iloilo also held a massive COVID-19 vaccination campaign. Iloilo Governor Arthur Defensor Jr. said they call it People Power Res Bakuna and is open to registered and walk-in clients of all age groups. The provincial government is also planning to hold vaccination campaigns in construction sites and terminals, among others, to make it more convenient. The National Capital Region is ripe for the escalation to Alert Level 1. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III made the announcement citing the negative 2-week growth rate and moderate risk in the region. Duque reiterates the need to strictly observe the minimum public health standards to avoid an uptick in COVID-19 cases. These are some areas are scaling down to Alert Level 1. He said another consideration for the further easing of restriction is to vaccinate at least 80% of its senior citizens and 70% of the target population per area. Meanwhile, former PNP chief and senatorial candidate Guillermo Eleazar said COVID-19 testing efforts should be further intensified by the government to detect more people who are infected with the disease. Eleazar made the appeal after the World Health Organization raised concern about fewer people around the world who are subjecting themselves to virus tests. Eleazar emphasized the importance of getting the primary series of vaccine and booster shots so that an individual will have an added layer of protection against COVID-19. In Negros Occidental, Governor Eugenio Jose Lacson said he would prefer that the province remains under Alert Level 2 as a precaution since COVID-19 is still around. Lacson said he would like to remain cautious against the virus, especially during an election campaign. He said while the COVID-19 cases in Negros Occidental are declining, the numbers can still go up anytime if Negrenses become complacent. In Cebu City, Mayor Michael Rama announced the reopening of the city for economic activities. He also removed major restrictions against COVID-19 under the new normal. Rama said all establishments and activities are now allowed to operate regardless of age and vaccination status, but with continuous observance of minimum public health standards. The Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases has approved the revised metrics to determine the COVID-19 alert level classifications in the country. Under the new alert level matrix, the cutoffs for the average daily attack rate of COVID-19 cases shall be less than 6 for low-risk classifications, 6 to 18 for moderate risk, and more than 18 for high risk. Areas can be de-escalated to Alert Level 1 if it's under the low to minimal risk case classification. Total bed utilization rate is less than 50%. Full vaccination is at 70% of its target population, and full vaccination of 80% of the target population for senior citizens. Metro Manila mayors unanimously recommended to place the National Capital Region under the lowest Alert Level 1 starting March 1. Meanwhile, the IATF has approved the COVID-19 vaccination certificates of Romania and the British Virgin Islands. Cabinet Secretary and Acting Presidential Spokesperson Carlo Nograles said the IATF's approval is for purposes of arrival quarantine protocols as well as for interzonal and intrazonal movement. In Negros Oriental, more than half of its total target population have already been vaccinated against COVID-19. As of February 24, the province has a total of 526,554 fully vaccinated individuals, including those who received the one-shot Johnson vaccine. This represents 53.1% of 990,637 individuals targeted for vaccination in the province. Meanwhile, a total of 2,212 children aged 5 to 11 years old have also been inoculated across the province. So far, no side effects were reported among this age group. And in Bacolod, the vaccination of children 5 to 11 years old has been suspended due to limited Pfizer vaccines. The Emergency Operations Center Task Force said Bacolod City has already exceeded its target. There will be no vaccination schedule until further notice, but online registration is still ongoing. Once the vaccination schedule resumes, parents are advised to bring their child's birth certificate and any government-issued ID or parental consent if accompanied by a guardian. Still ahead, the Foreign Affairs Department urges peaceful resolution to prevent the Russia-Ukraine conflict from spiraling out of control. And the Philippine government is urged to act as soaring oil prices are not seen to ease anytime soon. Details ahead, keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic, because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work.
The Philippines on Friday called on the international community to reaffirm its commitment to settling disputes through peaceful means amid the crisis between Ukraine and Russia. In a statement, the Department of Foreign Affairs noted the UN General Assembly's adoption of the Manila Declaration on the Peaceful Settlement of International Disputes back in 1982. The DFA urged all parties to stick to diplomatic and peaceful means to maintain international peace and security and avert a humanitarian crisis. The Manila Declaration is a landmark instrument on the peaceful settlement of international disputes. The statement came as Ukraine continues to counter Russia's attack that began on Thursday, with fierce battles reportedly taking place close to the capital, Kiev. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky claimed at least 137 people were killed on the first day of attacks by Russian troops and that he himself was a target. For his part, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana on Friday said the Philippines will remain neutral for now in the military conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Lorenzana refused to issue a strong statement against Russia and its President Vladimir Putin, even as various world leaders, including Asian neighbors, Japan and Taiwan, strongly condemned Russia. He noted that nearby countries have already expressed support for Ukraine. However, the defense chief said the armed forces is devising contingency plans in case of conflict. He said the crisis will most likely affect the Philippines in terms of fuel prices. As the military conflict between Russia and Ukraine intensifies, the United Nations announced it will allocate $20 million from the Central Emergency Response Fund to meet the urgent needs in Ukraine. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the world body and its humanitarian partners are committed to support people in Ukraine in their time of need. He emphasized that the UN staff are working on both sides of the contact line to provide humanitarian relief guided by the principles of neutrality, impartiality, humanity, and independence. He also said the protection of civilians must be the first priority, and international humanitarian and human rights law must be upheld. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky signed a decree early Friday on a general mobilization of the population in response to continued Russian attacks. Conscription of conscripts, reservists, and involvement of vehicles shall be done as needed within 90 days. Back in the Philippines, economic managers have vowed to enact continued measures to help sectors affected by the rising fuel prices, including the 2.5 billion peso fuel subsidy program. The Interagency Development Budget Coordinating Committee said the fuel subsidy will be released to over 377,000 qualified public utility vehicle drivers through the Department of Transportation. The Department of Agriculture, meanwhile, allocated 500 million pesos for fuel discounts for farmers and fisherfolk. The DBCC said the government is also pursuing a holistic value chain approach to ensure an adequate and affordable food supply amidst the rising oil prices. Meanwhile, ACT-CIS Party List Representative Jocelyn Tulfo said the government should implore the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries or OPEC to temper any upward pressure on crude oil, specifically Dubai crude. This as oil prices reached $100 a barrel after Russian forces invaded Ukraine. Tulfo said the Department of Foreign Affairs must inform the Filipinos now of the safety and security of Filipinos in Ukraine now that Russia's invasion is ongoing. She stressed the need to be diligent and tedious in the continuing evaluation of the Philippine-U.S. Mutual Defense Treaty and Visiting Forces Agreement, as well as the ASEAN security relationships. All 10 presidential candidates in the May 9 elections are expected to attend the first debate to be organized by the Commission on Elections next month. COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez said the debates to be produced by the poll body will be broadcast live, but there will be no live audience. He said no one will have any advance information about the questions, but candidates will be given an idea of the general topics. They also cannot bring anything, especially notes, on stage, although COMELEC will provide them with a pad and a pen on the podium. COMELEC is planning to hold the first presidential debate on March 19. Meanwhile, the camp of presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos said the Partido Federal ng Pilipinas standard-bearer has not yet confirmed his participation in the debate. Spokesperson Vic Rodriguez said his participation will only be confirmed if his hectic campaign schedule permits. Local candidates, people's groups, and other stakeholders participated in a unity walk in Baler, Aurora on Thursday to signify their desire for safe, peaceful, and orderly elections. The event coincided with the signing of a peace covenant and a manifesto declaring communist terrorist groups as persona non grata. The Aurora Police Provincial Office, Philippine Army's 91st Infantry Sinagtala Battalion, religious sectors, and local COMELEC officials led the 3-in-1 event. Colonel Julio Lezardo, Provincial Director of APO, said their participation signified their sincere desire and hope for secure, accurate, free, and fair elections. 91 IB Commander Lieutenant Colonel Reandro Rubio expressed his full support to all concerned agencies. COMELEC Provincial Election Supervisor Chris Ian Silva meanwhile thanked the participants from the private sector for their efforts. Local candidates in Legazpi City also participated in a covenant signing Wednesday night to signify their desire to make the voting exercise safe, orderly, accurate, and peaceful. The covenant signing held at the Legazpi City Convention Center started with an interfaith prayer as well as lighting of candles and release of doves. Lieutenant Colonel Bagard Arao, Legazpi City Acting Chief of Police said he is very thankful to the candidates who joined the signing and that the police force will work hard to achieve peaceful elections. He urged voters to choose honest candidates with integrity, capable to deliver good services to the people, and with a capacity to deliver good governance with transparency and accountability. Up next, the Philippine government moves to sanction Hong Kong employers who illegally terminated OFWs who contracted COVID-19. And tourism revival going smoothly. A popular destination sees a sharp increase in the number of visitors. More stories when the PNA Newsroom returns. The Philippine Consulate General in Hong Kong plans to blacklist employers of overseas Filipino workers who had been illegally fired for getting infected with COVID-19. Consul General Rally Tejada said these erring employers will also be held liable for violating the employment ordinance of Hong Kong. He said the Consulate General will coordinate with the Labor Department of Hong Kong to make sure that the employers would face charges. Last week, several Filipino employees who contracted COVID-19 sought assistance after they were fired by their employers, leaving them unable to get admitted to hospitals. Tejada reported that most of the employers have already taken back their terminated employees, while 3 to 5 employers are for further investigation. The Zamboanga del Norte provincial government has released financial assistance to 29 former New People's Army rebels through the Enhanced Comprehensive Local Integration Program, or ECLIP. The ex-rebels include a leader of the NPA's Western Mindanao Regional Party Committee, or WMRPC. They received the ECLIP benefit during the first quarter Zamboanga del Norte Provincial Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict meeting on Tuesday. Brigadier General Lionel Nicolas, Army's 102nd Infantry Brigade Commander, said each former rebel received 65,000 pesos financial assistance. The benefits included immediate cash and livelihood assistance to help them rebuild their lives as they return to mainstream society. Meanwhile, Nicolas said the surrender of the remaining members of the WMRPC will finally put an end to the decades-long insurgency problem in the Zamboanga Peninsula. Take one. The government is set to open more of the so-called friendship routes, which are expected to connect parts of the Bangsamoro region to the rest of Mindanao. More on this from Claire Gighe.
Commuting to Davao City for Marawi residents just got easier with the opening of the first ever inter-regional route going to and from the Bangsamoro region under the Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program. The Department of Transportation, or DOTR, and the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, together with the Ministry of Transportation and Communications in the Bangsamoro region, launched in Marawi City 3 friendship routes to provide modern, safe, secure, and comfortable public land transportation and help boost the economic and commercial activities in the region. These include the Davao City to Marawi City route, wherein 15 buses of the Mindanao Star Bus Transport Incorporated will operate and traverse from Davao City to Marawi via Talakag, Cagayan de Oro, Iligan, and vice versa. LTFRB Davao Regional Director Nonito Lianos III said the launching of friendship routes is a fulfillment of their mandate in the identification and opening of interregional routes, which can give the full sense of connectivity and continued exchange and brotherhood among different regions in Mindanao. In a video message, DOTR Secretary Arthur Tugade said the new interregional routes will not only achieve mobility and connectivity in the regions, but will also spur economies as it will open up commerce and trade in the areas. This was affirmed by City Mayor Mahulgan Damra, who emphasized that the opening of the friendship routes along with the availability of public utility vehicles is a great opportunity to serve the riding public with more accessible, affordable, and convenient public transport.
This road does not only connect two cities, it connects for different provinces and different regions. It connects economies, industries, and most importantly, it connects lives of our constituents.
The other friendship routes launched are Iligan City to Marawi City with 27 Class 2 PUJs operated by MSU Marawi Iligan Transport Services Corporation and the General Santos City to Dipolog City via Cotabato with 15 provincial buses operated by Rural Transit Mindanao Incorporated. Liano said 2 more routes were identified and are now waiting for a successful selection process for qualified transport groups. For PNA Newsroom, Claire Gigha of the Philippine Information Agency, Lanao del Sur.
Cordillera farmers and various non-government organizations have sent at least 7 tons of highland vegetables to residents in Siargao Island who were badly affected by Typhoon Odette in December last year. The donation activity called Operation Siargao is a collaboration among the Cordillera farmers, Upland Linkages, and Bangads Philippines groups, among others. The vegetables will be distributed to the municipalities of Dapa, Del Carmen, Pilar, Burgos, and the community kitchens in San Isidro Town and General Luna. The group also sent clothes and other food donations such as canned goods, noodles, and water to the residents of the island. The organizers thanked Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana along with the Philippine Air Force for sending the C-130 Hercules to airlift the goods from Baguio to Siargao. Meanwhile, Del Carmen Town in Siargao is reopening its doors to tourists as a world-class surfing destination in the Philippines and one of the 2021 Times World Greatest Places recovers from the devastation of Odette. The Sugba Lagoon, one of the popular destinations in Siargao, opened again to tourists starting today, February 25. 50 boats will be available on opening day and will cater to tourists going to Sugba Lagoon, Cauhagan Island, and the Sandbar. Last Tuesday, Philippine Airlines resumed its regular commercial flights from Manila to Siargao Island in Surigao del Norte. The number of visitors in Intramuros has increased by 132% in 3 weeks as the walled city continues to welcome tourists amid the pandemic. As of February 23, the former Spanish stronghold registered over 38,000 same-day guests, a 132% increase from January's nearly 29,000 visitors. Tourism Secretary and Intramuros Administration Chair Bernadette Romulo Puyat said the significant increase in visitors reflects the optimism and confidence in travel. She cited the walled city's vast open space, lush gardens, and the strict implementation of health and safety protocols as reasons tourists in the new normal visit the place. Under COVID-19 Alert Level 2, physical distancing, contact tracing, and the maximum number of visitors per site are strictly observed in the walled city. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Fostering peaceful change, Filipinos are urged to emulate those who keep the spirit of EDSA alive as the nation marks 36 years of the historic revolution that led to the restoration of democracy. Go or no? The question on whether Metro Manila will shift to Alert Level 1 hangs, but the Department of Health gives its nod on the downgrade, citing it has already met certain criteria. The Philippines calls for calm and urges the international community to commit to peaceful resolution of disputes as Russia's attacks on Ukraine have so far claimed over 100 lives. Employers face sanctions for illegally firing Filipino migrant workers who contracted COVID-19 in Hong Kong as the Chinese territory races against time to contain a fifth wave of infections. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. You may also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I'm Marita Muaje. Stay safe and have a good day.